Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Israel says no hostage release before Friday, despite the two sides agreeing at a truce. Finland to close all but northernmost border crossing with Russia following a surge in migrants. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi hosts virtual G20 leaders summit. Says concerns of the global south will have to be given top priority in the 21st century. India and Australia set for a 5-match T20 international series from Thursday. Suryakumar Yadav to lead Team India. As Israel-Hamas conflict rages on, Israeli officials said that there would be no release of hostages held by Hamas before Friday, despite the two sides agreeing at a truce. The agreement was approved by the Israeli government earlier Wednesday and had been widely expected to take effect on Thursday. While Israel's chief military spokesperson said on Wednesday that the war in Gaza would continue until the ceasefire.
We had a discourse with Israel Chief of General Staff and all the brigade commanders. We don't know when a ceasefire will start. We will be prepared to do everything that's required. At the moment, we are focusing on the war. What we did today is to expose Hamas tunnels and destroy them.
Whereas after Israel and Hamas agreed on to a ceasefire, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that the Red Cross would be allowed to visit the remaining hostages in Gaza.
The outline that was agreed upon will not include releasing murders. It does not include the representatives from the Red Cross, visit from the Red Cross to the hostages and giving them medication. Here is the exact segment of the agreement. The Red Cross will be allowed to visit the remainder of the hostages and to give them required medications. And I expect the Red Cross to do its work.
UN officials briefed the Security Council on the humanitarian crisis faced by women and children in Gaza on Wednesday, while calling for a ceasefire to be extended beyond the original 4 days. UN representative to UAE said the truce will provide life-saving humanitarian relief from the ongoing conflict.
A truce announced can be extended to allow in the life-saving humanitarian relief for the Palestinians in Gaza and the safe return of the remaining hostages there.
Israeli forces said that they have taken the headquarters of a Hamas brigade in northern Gaza. The army released a video on Wednesday showing weapon caches, a workshop, a 7-meter wide tunnel and shafts in the ground that they have discovered from the raid. As per Israeli sources, the weapons found were apparently used by Hamas in the October 7th attack on Israel. Finland's Prime Minister Petteri Orpo announced that Finland will close all but one of its border crossings with Russia. The closure will take effect at midnight on Friday. The remaining crossings will be the northernmost one. The closure is an attempt to stop the flow of asylum seekers to Finland. The government claims that Moscow is intentionally pushing refugees and migrants to Finland's borders. A Finnish minister said that there are signs that Russian border officials and other agencies are involved. He called the ongoing migration pressure on Europe's eastern border a hybrid attack operation. The international border between Finland and Russia is 830 miles long. It is also an external border of the European Union and NATO. The Ukrainian Army's Strategic Communications Directorate released footage on Wednesday showing the aftermath of a strike on a Russian Special Forces base. The Directorate says that a Russian Special Forces commando point in Kherson region was the target. Some pro-Russian bloggers said that Russian forces had been harrying Ukrainian forces near the village of Kirinki, near the marshes on the eastern bank, upriver from the city of Kherson. Ukrainian military analyst Pavlo Norzhny told NV Radio that Kyiv's forces had established a beachhead at Kirinki and were advancing to the larger town of Oleshki to the south. President Volodymyr Zelensky and his defense minister welcomed the formation by Ukraine's Western allies of a 20-nation coalition to boost air defenses on Thursday. Zelensky said the group, one of several devoted to specific areas of Ukraine's defense, was formed at a virtual meeting of the Ramstein Group examining Ukraine's military needs. The decision is seen as a key element in the country's campaign against Russian forces. Germany's defense ministry had earlier announced the formation of the group, with Germany and France taking on the leading roles. Commander of the Houthi Navy toured the commercial cargo ship Galaxy Leader, seized by the group in the Red Sea on Wednesday. Brigadier General Mohammed Abdul Nabi said his forces would stand ready to attack any Israeli ship crossing the Bab al-Mandab Strait in the south of Red Sea. The Iran-backed Houthis, who have been sending drones and long-range missiles at Israel, the Galaxy leadership was seized on Sunday. During a G20 video call on Wednesday, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz called on Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the invasion of Ukraine. Scholz said he asked Putin to withdraw his troops from Ukraine's territory so that this war finally ends.
As you know, today the Russian president, for the first time since the start of the war of aggression against Ukraine, participated in a video call of the G20 heads of the state and government. I call on President Putin to end his attack on Ukraine and to withdraw troops from Ukraine's territory so that this war finally ends.
CSTO members comprising of Armenia, Kazakhstan, Russia, Belarus, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan gather in Belarus, but Armenia skips the summit, impacting Moscow and CSTO. DD India correspondent Dasha Charnishova gets us details from Moscow on the significance of the meeting.
The capital of Belarus, Minsk, is hosting a summit of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, also known as CSTO. Several leaders of post-Soviet countries are expected to join the summit in person, including Russian President Vladimir Putin, President of Kazakhstan Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, the President of Tajikistan Emomali Rahmon. The president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, who is hosting the summit, said he expected the gathering to help galvanize collective efforts to beef up defense and security. In his words, the post-Soviet space was going through a difficult phase. First of all, due to the conflict situations, including in the CSTO area of responsibility. Most recently, Lukashenko welcomed the resolution of the conflict between Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan in the south of Central Asia, and said it was necessary to think about future after the confrontation between Armenia and Azerbaijan has ended. But Armenian officials have declined to attend the summit in person. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan said earlier that Azerbaijan's actions and inaction of the CSTO forced Yerevan to seek to diversify its relations in the security area. Moscow regrets the Armenian approach. Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said the decision to skip the CSTO summit did not meet the long-term interests of the Armenian people and would not contribute to the strengthening of the security and stability of Armenia. Dasha Charnishova reporting in Moscow for DD India.
North Korea says it has put its first spy satellite into orbit in defiance of a United Nations resolution, and it says it plans further launches. The White House has condemned North Korea's actions, saying they could destabilize East Asia. Andrew Wood from Hong Kong gets us more.
The advantage for North Korea is that with a satellite in orbit, no matter how crude it is compared to, say, anything produced by Russia or America or China, is that it gets some idea of what's going on in its backyard, in the territory of its rivals, its enemies, namely South Korea and Japan, and for that matter, probably China as well. Now, the United Nations Security Council and the United Nations General Assembly have a long list of sanctions and resolutions that in theory forbid North Korea from launching missiles, launching rockets. Remember, rockets and missiles are remarkably similar. They can be used to carry spy satellites, or they could be used to carry warheads. North Korea, though, is probably going to continue to ignore them, it seems. It says it has a sovereign right to launch missiles and rockets, to have its own space program. Nevertheless, Japan and South Korea are not too happy with what's going on. America has shown solidarity with a show of force by, for example, sending nuclear submarines and an aircraft carrier to South Korea to show that it's prepared to defend or certainly to stand by its allies, South Korea and Japan. And also don't forget that South Korea, Japan and America are, in theory, in a couple of weeks' time, starting to share real-time data about what's going on with North Korea's missile launches as well. North Korea seems, by its actions, a bit, in a way, like what China seems to be doing with Taiwan. It seems the more bellicosely it acts, the more it actually seems to bring its allies together. In Hong Kong, I'm Andrew Wood, reporting for DD India.
At least 2 people died when a car exploded near a border checkpoint at a bridge connecting the US and Canada. Officials say there is no evidence to suggest terrorism, but an investigation is underway. Now, this incident caused major disruption at a time when millions of Americans are traveling for the Thanksgiving holiday. William Denslow reports from New York.
In her press conference, New York's Governor Kathy Hochul said that this investigation will go on for a number of days, but she added that it's important for people to turn down the temperature, trying to reassure people, saying that all is well. She said that at this time there is no indication of a terrorist attack. However, she did also say that it would be premature to say that this was an accident. She said that we don't know if it was intentional at this moment in time. Some footage has emerged purportedly showing this incident on the Rainbow Bridge, this incredibly busy border crossing between the US and Canada. It shows a vehicle travelling at high speed, seemingly losing control before going up in flames. That corroborates some eyewitness testimony we've been hearing throughout Wednesday as well. We have heard significantly from law enforcement. According to their preliminary investigations, no explosives found in the vehicle. This has caused major travel disruptions on the border between the US and Canada. We saw that at the time of the incident, 4 border crossings around the Niagara area in upstate New York were closed. New York's governor says that all of those bridges were reopening as soon as possible, with the exception of the Rainbow Bridge. She says that that bridge, the one in question involved in this incident, will remain closed until it is deemed structurally safe to reopen.
Right now, the Rainbow Bridge will remain closed while law enforcement continues investigation. Again, this is a large, widely scattered scene, and we're trying to identify all the elements to make sure that there is no unforeseen situations that we need to address before we can open again to the public.
The White House was informed and kept abreast of developments after this incident occurred on Wednesday, and it really comes at a time of heightened security concerns in the United States, not least because this occurs as so many people are traveling in the US for the Thanksgiving holidays. Around 55 million Americans are expected to take to the roads, take to the skies over the next few days. This incident is not only causing delays in certain parts of the US, but really is increasing jitters for law enforcement and the public as well, at a time where so many people in the US are travelling for the holidays. William Denslow in New York, reporting for DD India.
And up next, we take a look at other stories that are making it to the headlines from across the world. The Mexican National Guard on Wednesday captured Néstor Isidro Pérez Salas, or El Nini, accused of heading security for the faction of Sinaloa cartel. Pérez Salas is indicted for his alleged role at the helm of the capital security apparatus, including cocaine and other trafficking conspiracy, possession of machine guns, and witness retaliation. The Venezuelan Football Federation on Wednesday condemned the treatment of its national team's player Nahuel Ferrasi by Peruvian police. The player informed local media that a baton-wielding Peruvian police officer hit him twice, injuring fingers of his left hand as he tried to approach Venezuelan fans in the stands after the match. The 97th annual Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York is going to kick off on Thursday morning. Viewers will be able to see 25 balloons and 31 floats, including Pikachu, Ronald McDonald, and many other balloons that got a pump up on Wednesday ahead of the parade. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Mission Zindagi rescue operation continues as reconnection established with the workers trapped in the Silkyara tunnel. UAE inaugurates the world's largest single-site 2-gigawatt solar power plant ahead of the upcoming United Nations COP28 conference. Stay with us as we get you a roundup of Day 3 at IFFI. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live and I'm Preeti. Let's get you more updates. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a virtual summit of G20 leaders on Wednesday to discuss the implementation of the Delhi Declaration adopted in September and several new challenges that have emerged since then. Amit Mukherjee gets us the details.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi asserted on Wednesday that the spirit of one family has the strength to keep the world unified in the fight against terror and violence and help the global community to ensure peace and well-being of humanity. Addressing the virtual summit of G20 leaders, PM Modi reiterated India's commitment to work for the welfare of all.
आज संकटों के जो बादल हम देख रहे हैं, वन फैमिली में वह ताकत है कि हम शांति के लिए काम कर सकते हैं। मानवीय कल्याण के दृष्टिकोण से हम आतंक और हिंसा के विरुद्ध और मानवता के प्रति अपनी आवाज बुलंद कर सकते हैं। आज विश्व की मानवता की इस अपेक्षा की पूर्ति के लिए भारत कदम से कदम मिलाकर चलने के लिए तत्पर है।
On the release of hostages held in Gaza, Prime Minister Modi during the G20 virtual summit welcomed the news of hostage release and hoped that all the hostages will be freed soon.
आतंकवाद हम सभी को अस्वीकार्य है। सिविलियंस की मौत कहीं भी हो निंदनीय है। आज हुए हॉस्टेजेस के रिलीज के समाचार का हम स्वागत करते हैं। उम्मीद करते हैं कि सभी हॉस्टेजेस जल्दी रिहा हो जाएंगे। मानवीय सहायता का समय से और निरंतर पहुंचना आवश्यक है।
Expressing concern over the Israel-Hamas conflict, the Prime Minister said that the Middle East unrest should not become a regional crisis. He said that India, along with the world community, is concerned and is hoping for an early resolution of the issue.
यह सुनिश्चित करना भी जरूरी है कि इजरायल और हमास की लड़ाई किसी तरह का क्षेत्रीय रूप धारण न कर लें।
Prime Minister Modi also touched upon the use of artificial intelligence and said that global cooperation was necessary for its regulation. He expressed concern over its misuse, especially the deepfake issue, and stressed on the need to use the technology in a responsible manner.
आज आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस के युग में टेक्नोलॉजी को रिस्पॉन्सिबल तरीके से उपयोग में लाने की जरूरत है। पूरी दुनिया में एआई के नेगेटिव यूज को लेकर चिंता बढ़ रही है। भारत की स्पष्ट सोच है कि एआई के वैश्विक रेगुलेशन को लेकर हमें मिलकर काम करना चाहिए। डीप फेक समाज के लिए, व्यक्ति के लिए कितना खतरनाक है, इसकी गंभीरता को समझते हुए हमें आगे बढ़ना होगा। हम चाहते हैं कि AI should reach the people and it must be safe for the society.
The Prime Minister also highlighted that the concerns of the Global South countries need to be prioritized.
21वीं सदी के विश्व को आगे बढ़ते हुए ग्लोबल साउथ की चिंताओं को सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता देनी होगी। ग्लोबल साउथ के देश ऐसी अनेक कठिनाइयों से गुजर रहे हैं जिनके लिए वे जिम्मेदार नहीं है। इस संदर्भ में समय की मांग है कि हम डेवलपमेंट एजेंडा को अपना पूर्ण समर्थन दें।
During his address, Prime Minister Modi said it was a proud moment for India to get on board the African nations during India's G20 presidency. He said the step was a significant move to show inclusivity during the New Delhi G20 summit. Amit Mukherjee for DD India.
After conclusion of India's G20 presidency, the country's External Affairs Ministry held a press briefing to highlight some key agenda discussed during the virtual G20 summit on Wednesday. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that there has been an understanding for the formulation of a roadmap for handling of crypto assets.
The next agenda on which there was a lot of a sense of working together, and I was very glad to hear the FSP speaking about the crypto asset framework on which they wanted, the roadmap is ready, they wanted countries to take it up, and it is only through that we are going to have the risks which have to be managed by particularly the emerging market countries, which can be handled, because the roadmap actually has looked into some specific areas.
The minister said G20 member states reiterated their steadfast commitment for action against climate change. She also mentioned the significance of the upcoming COP28 summit in the UAE.
Timely and adequate mobilization of climate finance has also remained high on our agenda during our presidency. Today we heard a lot of members talking about this and how important this will be. Climate finance has been emphasized in terms of new collective quantified goals that we have to arrive by 2024. There was frequent reference by all the members talking about next we meet at COP28. So this marked the major last summit under virtual, however, under the Indian presidency, and effectively ends the Indian presidency. But there was a lingering memory of this presidency moving over to COP28, which was referred to by most members, saying we are going to carry forward our agenda on climate finance to the next.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said that the leaders condemned terrorism, civilian deaths and discussed humanitarian assistance. Minister Jaishankar said that the G20 member states appreciated the truce between Israel and Hamas.
What we heard really were condemnation of terrorism, expression of deep concern over the loss of civilian lives, calls for extending timely and adequate humanitarian assistance, not allowing the conflict to spread, and to find a long-term solution for the Palestine issue. G20 members on the whole welcomed the understanding which has been reached on the release of hostages, on the flow of relief material to Gaza, and some pause in the fighting.
While recounting some of India's key achievements during its G20 presidency, Minister Jaishankar said that India's G20 presidency was global South-centric.
There was one point, I think, which all of us would have noted today, a very clear recognition that India's G20 presidency was global South-centric, and it had brought development back fair, square and center of the G20. I think this was a very widely voiced thought, not just among the G20 members, but also, I would say, among the international organizations.
India's G20 presidency, which began on the 1st of December last year, successfully concluded on Wednesday. The presidency has been passed on to Brazil.
Since G20 works in continuity, our focus since 9th and 10th of September has been on implementation. A lot of things have been implemented, both domestically, and we are pushing for implementation. And a number of things which we have taken up, like working group on Women's 20, Startup 20, disaster risk resilience, are all being carried forward by Brazil. Brazil's theme is build a fair world and a sustainable future. Under that, most of what we have announced in the New Delhi Leaders Declaration, we'll push as a member of Troika, we'll push for implementation under the Brazil presidency now.
A big sigh of relief for India as connection with the workers trapped in the collapsed Silkyara tunnel in India's Uttarkashi has been re-established this morning. The rescue work is underway. The auger machine is being taken inside the tunnel again so that horizontal drilling can start. 2 6-meter pipes are being drilled and inserted inside the tunnel so that the workers can be taken out safely. And Mission Zindagi rescue operation, which it had been named, will be completed. The UAE has inaugurated the world's largest single-site solar power plant ahead of the upcoming United Nations COP28 conference. The 2-gigawatt power project is located 35 kilometers from Abu Dhabi and will generate enough electricity to power almost 200,000 homes. The plant is expected to displace 2.4 million tons of carbon emissions annually. COP28 President-designate Dr. Sultan Al Jaber emphasized on the significance of the power plant as a symbol of progress in solar power efficiency and cost competitiveness. On day 3 of the International Film Festival of India, there were numerous film screenings and events to celebrate the art of cinema. The day witnessed red carpet events, screening of movies, including Elegies, Vad and Room 999. Masterclass and conversation sessions were also conducted. That's it in this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.